Today I'm going to look at a game by Vladimir Kramnik. This game was played in 1995 against Ehlvest, and it illustrates the theme of the breakthrough. So let me explain a little bit as we get to the position what the breakthrough is. So the game was played in the Botvinnik line of the Slav defense, and the moves up to here are fairly well known. So here white usually takes on f6, but instead Kramnik begins by playing g3, and we enter this position where, well, white moves the queen, this hits c6, and the idea is to also possibly, free up the d1 square for the rook, or for the rook through long castle, or through just playing rook d1. So black plays rook c8 to protect the pawn on c6, and white continues with development. Here it's, even though white has played g3, in the current position it's still better to keep the bishop on this diagonal, so that when the pawn goes to c4, potentially the bishop may attack this pawn. So white goes b4, black goes b4, the knight comes out to the center, and now black plays c5, which is a thematic move in this variation, the Botvinnik variation. While basically black needs some squares for his pieces. Like, I imagined he's hoping for something like, well, for white to take, and then he comes out, and at least black gets some freedom for his pieces, and his king, gets some room. But of course Kramnik does not do that, and after c5, it is well known that in the Slav Botvinnik variation, white responds to c5 with d5, even though this position is a bit non-standard. So Kramnik plays d5, which is quite brilliant. This is a typical pawn breakthrough. Let's try to understand what does white get in return for this breakthrough. Well, a couple of things. If black does not take, then white wants to capture there himself, and that would quite open up the black king. The threat is just, say, if black does something like some nothing move, well, this would be just mate, right? Because the bishop and the pawn harass the king. So of course black has to respond, and in the game he takes, right? That's the most natural move. And here Kramnik had to anticipate what he's going to do against that. So the knight seems like he's attacked and has to go somewhere, but there's no good square to go to. But instead of moving the knight away, Kramnik goes queen to f5, and this shows why he played pawn to d5. Well, first of all, he opened up this diagonal, so now the queen can come to the square. Secondly, well, now if black takes like he did, white also opens up the d file, and it turns out that the opening of a couple of files and diagonals is all that Kramnik needed in this very sharp position to justify this pawn and then piece sacrifice. In addition, the pawn stayed on c5, and these black pieces are still very stuck there. Black has an extra piece, but they're essentially useless. So black here tries to defend rather desperately, but it fails. Kramnik just continues to bring in more pieces into the game, and here there's no time for queen a2, for example, so black has to continue defending on b5, but well, here the e file opens up, and this is pretty much it, because this king hasn't castled. He has to go to a d file, and there's not much good that's going to happen to it here. So Kramnik is looking for a forced mate at this point. Now he's threatening queen e8 mate because the bishop is pinned, so say black plays something foolish like this. This will be just checkmate. A classic position where the rooks are on the open file against the exposed king. So of course black tries to be a little bit more resilient than that, but the position is lost. With bishop h6 he tries to get the rook back into the game. And here Kramnik could just take that bishop, but instead he goes straight for mate. Now rook here is the only move, and now he sacrificed on d7. this opens up the king completely, and not waiting for checkmate here, black resigned. The game is over, right? This is the only legal move, and then just the rook comes in, and things are getting wrapped up. So it's a pretty nice game by Kramnik, and the thematic move here is pawn to d5, the kind of move you want to remember. It's a typical breakthrough, opens up the black position, and prevents the black pieces from coming out, from getting developed. Yeah, so fairly instructive win by one of the world's best players.